There is a well-known saying that it takes money to make money. What I'm gonna suggest for this video is that we scrap that, because for the roughly 2/3 of all people that live paycheck to paycheck and don't have extra money, that one's kind of depressing. Let's scrap it and replace it with something that 100% of people have the ability to go get and go acquire as a stepping stone to getting more money, and that is skills. Anybody can go get skills, you just gotta go learn them, right? And that's the truth. This isn't just a way to be more positive and make you feel better. It's actually the truth. It does not take money to make money, but it definitely takes skills to make money. 2/3 of all people live paycheck to paycheck. Depends which study you read. You can Google it like I did, and you'll find, I think there was the most drastic was the Career Builder study. Career Builder released a study that said 78% of all Americans live paycheck to paycheck. I've seen multiple other studies in the 50s and 60s, but I've never seen a study that says below 50%. So we know that at least a majority of people live paycheck to paycheck. And I think that is a travesty, because we live in a world where whatever your job is, whatever your circumstance is, whatever your environment is, whatever your income is, if you'll just go add some skills to the mix, and some of them are skills that you can work on in very short intervals of time, like 30 minutes a week, an hour a week, you can spend a little time working on a new skill, add the skill, you increase your income. There's literally no reason in this world why anybody should live paycheck to paycheck for a long period of time. And here's why it's so important that you connect increasing your income to acquiring new skills. Because if you try to increase your income through any other mechanism, whether it's, I don't know, whatever the shortcut would be, something other than, okay, if I want to earn more, I have to be worth more. I have to increase the value that I have to offer. Then I have to go offer that increased value through the application of these new skills. If you try to do it any other way, you're going to bump up against this long-standing, well-documented phenomenon in psychology around deservability. Basically, you will not allow yourself to get more money or to keep more money if you know deep down that you haven't earned that money through increasing the value that you're giving to the world through some sort of skills. And this is proven. The easiest way to look at this for like empirical evidence that confirms this beyond a reasonable doubt is the phenomenon of lottery winners. 70% of lottery winners go broke within 5 years. Think about that. There's a 70% chance that no matter how much of what's called a negative economic shock, which is a shock of an influx of money. Typically, an economic shock is a negative event, but a negative economic shock, ironically, is a positive event, an influx of money. No matter what size negative economic shock event happens in your life, if it was a windfall that wasn't earned through an increased exchange of value with the market, either through skills or a business that you built and sold, something that you worked hard to create, then there's a 70% chance that it will be completely gone in 5 years. And how about this statistic? For the average person, there is a 0.2% chance that you will ever accumulate so much debt in your life relative to your income that you have no foreseeable ability to pay it, and you will be forced to declare bankruptcy. That's roughly 1 out of every 500 people. If I give you a windfall of money, like a lottery winning, or this is also true for big insurance settlements, what are the odds that you'll declare bankruptcy? It goes from 0.2%, 1 out of every 500 people, to over 33%. More than 1 out of every 3 people declare bankruptcy if they get a lot of money. Meaning the money, not only they can't keep it, but they actually use it in such a destructive way that they create debt so much greater than their ability to pay it that they're actually forced to go into a courtroom and be publicly, stripped and humiliated of all their assets and say, help, I need to reset. Like, how has this happened? What is going on up here? But it's exactly what I said. If we as human beings don't like to actually get money that we don't feel we've worked hard to earn and to deserve. That is why it's so important. Saying it takes money to make money. If I gave you money, you wouldn't go make more money with that money. If I gave you money, you'd actually harm yourself with that money. That's what the statistics show. But you get some skills, then you feel like you deserve what you go get. And for me, this really came home in my mind, and my whole life changed in 2008. So I was about $500,000 in debt. Like, I was no shining star of financial, success or intelligence. I was broke. I'd failed at 10 different businesses. I was living, most people live paycheck to paycheck. I was living gig to gig. So I've lived that way. And it was 2008 for me when I had just continued, frankly, to get into so much debt because I was trying these things I was trying these, think of them as shortcuts, like basically these approaches to getting more money where instead of focusing on leveling up my skills like I'm talking about, I thought it was about finding the right opportunity. Like, oh, I'll do this opportunity, I'll do that opportunity, I'll start this type of business, I'll invest, a few $100s in this type of thing, or I'm chasing things like, if it was the modern world, it would be like, oh, was it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it real estate wholesaling? It's like always looking for stuff to go into instead of focusing on increasing my skills. And then it was 2008, I was at rock bottom, and I found somebody on the internet who was like, listen, man, you don't need some magical opportunity. You don't need right place, right time. You don't need to know the right people. You don't need to have all this money already to get started. He said, the facts are 84% of all millionaires in this world are completely self-made. They started without money and without a big network. It's 88% of millionaires. It's 84% of billionaires are self-made. So even to make $1 billion in this world, you don't have to have the right resources. You don't have to have the right network. You don't have to have the right pre-existing amount of money, but you always have to have the right skills. And I was confronted with this truth. It was, it smacked me hard in the face, and I realized, okay, I need to stop chasing opportunities. I need to stop thinking, oh, well, the reason that didn't work is because I joined the wrong MLM and it should have been this other one or whatever, all these 10 different things that I tried. It was like, I need to start working on myself. So that's what this video is now. I'm going to give you the 7 skills that I have been working on that have made the biggest difference in my life, and that most of the successful people I know at least have proficiency at some, if not all, of these skills. Skill number 1 is selling. You have to get great at selling in this world. I don't know anyone in this world that actually gets paid money that isn't generated through sales. Like, no business pays its employees unless they're selling products or services. No business owner gets paid from their business unless their business is selling products or services. Stuff always has to get sold. We treat sales like it's this dirty thing that a few people in an organization are meant to do so that everybody else can get paid. But the reality is we're all selling ourselves all the time. The one tip I'll give you, I'm going to give 7 skills in this video. I'm not going to be able to give 7 exhaustive lessons about how to develop each of those skills. There's plenty of other videos for that. But what I will do is give a tip for each one. And I'll say this about selling, is a lot of people get really, really hung up in sales on the idea of like there being these magic words or this magic method or this magic talk track or framework. And there are those things. There's a lot of really wonderful art and science to sales. But the thing that I have found is the most essential prerequisite and the thing that's the easiest to do to just make yourself better at sales, even if you haven't gone out and acquired any sort of technique, is to just build an emotional bridge with whoever or you're trying to sell to, or to, I don't even like the term sell to, whoever you're trying to enroll in the view or the belief that you have. Build an emotional bridge. We all know how to create emotional connection with people. It's eye contact, it's genuine interest, it's enthusiasm, it's body language, it's animation, it's positivity, it's reciprocity, it's asking open questions, it's creating dialogue, it's not being too one-dimensional where you only, like if you go out to lunch with someone and you're like a dog with a bone, you only talk about this one thing, you don't allow the conversation to move laterally. At the end of that lunch, forget about sales, that person's not going to like you. They're going to go, yeah, I went to lunch with this guy, all he wanted to talk about was this one thing, and he was like a dog with a bone, like searing a laser through my forehead. Well, that's how it is in sales. Like if you're trying to sell something, you can't only fixate about the one thing that you're trying to sell. You have to like have natural conversations and create emotional bridges with people. That's the easiest thing you can do to get started at improving yourself as a salesperson. Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to let you know you can get a free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut, which will show you the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy. And there's a special link just for this episode in the description. So thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. And the second skill that can make you rich is public speaking. We all know, you've probably heard that public speaking is like one of people's greatest fears. Public speaking is basically this convergence of two things that create great fear for most people. It is exposure, meaning you have a lot of people looking at you, whether it's in an audience to a stage or through a camera to, let's say, YouTube or whatever. Anytime we feel like a lot of people are seeing us, combined with the idea that we're in some sort of position of presumed authority where we're being evaluated or we're being judged or scrutinized. So you take those two things. You take the idea that there's a lot of people watching, and that while they're watching, we're supposed to be some sort of an authority on a thing. You put those together, most people have a total freak out. That's why public speaking is so many people's greatest fear. And the thing about anything that produces great fear is there's no way to practice not being afraid. And there's no way to practice being afraid unless you're afraid. This is why, like, you think of law enforcement, where they're trying to train people to do things, to operate in a certain environment that is scary for them. And so they put them in situations that are as realistic, that are as lifelike as possible. In the military, they talk about you have to create the conditions in which you'll find yourself having to perform, or else you won't be able to train yourself to perform in those conditions. It's the same thing with public speaking. The only way to get really good at public speaking, aside from or in addition to acquiring the techniques and learning the methods, is you have to put yourself in front of people. You have to create that dual condition for yourself of having people looking at you and you being in a position of presumed authority where you feel like they're judging or they're evaluating you. And the best way to do that is go join a group. Join a public speaking group. I personally am a member of Toastmasters International. It's a worldwide organization that basically operates on the premise of this truth, that there's no way to develop this incredibly valuable skill of public speaking without actually putting yourself in front of people and speaking. So for whatever that's worth, find a local chapter of Toastmasters or any other organization. There's constantly like meetups happening. There's open mic nights. I don't care. Go sing karaoke. You've got to find a way to start putting yourself in front of people where they are evaluating you. Skill number 3 is called copywriting. This is, I would say, related to sales, but typically when we think of sales, we think of face-to-face or maybe selling from a stage, like through public speaking, or maybe selling over the phone. Copywriting is kind of more anonymous. Copywriting is the persuasive arts through the written word. And it's frankly, it's a very different skill set than sales. I actually know some people, and actually I would say this, you don't have to be great at sales and copywriting, but you probably need to be great at sales or copywriting if you want to be really, really great in this world. You have to be able to persuade people, and you're either going to persuade them by getting their attention and talking, or you're going to persuade them by getting their attention and having them read something you wrote. So how do you get good at copywriting? To get good at copywriting, you have to go find situations where you are being sold to with words, typically either through a video script or through a long written, what they call a sales letter, and actually take the time to go through it, asking yourself the question at all times with every word, every sentence, what is the person doing right now? Assume that anything that's designed to sell is created with great intention. It's like a great story, like everything leads to the next thing, and everything is a mechanism or a tool, and what's happening is it's trying to guide or shape your thinking, your thoughts as the consumer, as the reader or the viewer of the sales copy, right? So to go through it, and I really recommend like print, if it's a letter, print it out, or if it's a video, watch it and go through it slowly with a pen, take notes. I actually really prefer doing it by hand. I think it's important to break yourself out of the digital modality and go into the analog modality of actually writing with a pen. Because when we stay just consuming digital and processing digital and trying to take notes digital, it's like we stay in a certain part of our brain that doesn't have like tactile sensations and other things that can help us learn more effectively. But go through whatever the piece of sales copy is and be taking notes on what are they doing to me right now. When they drop a statistic or a piece of data, what did that just do to me as the consumer? Did it increase my certainty? Yes, data increases certainty. It increases the perception of authority. It typically is going to be a piece of data that jars or disrupts a conventional thought. So like earlier when I said that 84% of all billionaires are self-made and didn't come into their venture with a ton of money or some big pre-existing network, that statistic jars or disrupts a lot of conventional assumptions that people have. Say, oh, billionaires are just people that were born, with a trust fund, or they knew the right people. So like, what is the strategic intent of the data, right? And you would be taking notes. Say, oh, well, when they inserted a statistic, this is what it did to me. What about when the language asks a question and you say, oh, they just asked me a question. What did that do? It got me wondering about the answer to the question, but they didn't immediately answer the question. In fact, they asked me the question and then they talked about something else and they didn't even come back to answer that question until 3 minutes later. And you would take note of that and you would notice, how did it make me feel when they asked a question? It's called opening a loop. And then if you do this exercise where you're constantly going, okay, what is it causing my brain to do as I'm consuming this? What is it causing me to think or feel? Then when you go study copywriting, you can actually, I have videos on copywriting, or there's a million great copywriters out there that you can go learn from. If you've done this exercise beforehand of going through copy and using your own terminology, say, oh, what are they doing? How is this working? And then you go study copywriting. They're basically start explaining all the methods to you, all the tactics. It'll make sense because you've experienced it in context. What a lot of people do with copywriting is they try to learn copywriting by studying about copywriting instead of just studying actual copywriting even before they've learned the tactics or the method. So that's my advice, is go allow yourself to be sold to, take notes on what's happening in the process, and then go start learning about copywriting and the tactics and figuring out what it was that you were experiencing. And the fourth skill that can make you rich is leadership. One of my favorite authorities on leadership, John Maxwell, he has his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And his first one is called the law of the lid. And it basically says that your leadership ability is the lid on your potential results for yourself personally, in an organization, or in any collaboration with other people, basically. And a big part of this is other people cannot be led by someone who is a less effective leader than they are. Leadership is this like natural sort of, it's not natural, it's a thing you can develop, but it's like this intangible thing that will naturally play itself out, where you could be the boss, but doesn't mean you're the leader. If you're surrounded by 3 or 4 people and they're naturally a better leader than you, even if you're the boss, it doesn't matter. Eventually, whoever the best leader is will be the one steering the initiative. So if you want to go into this world and have it your way and create your path and your future and make your mark, you have to be able to lead in that direction, which means you have to be at least as good a leader as the people that you're trying to align. And let's be really clear, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You're going to have to be able to align other people to your mission or your cause, or else you're never going to be able to achieve it if it's of any substance. And the number one thing about leadership, here's a tip, is becoming obsessed with asking people, or at least thinking through in your mind, how can I make this easier for them? What can I do to serve them? The ultimate concept of leadership is leadership through service, or service leadership, or servant leadership. When you get obsessed with that, you will naturally make yourself a superior leader to most people in the world that are basically thinking about leadership as, how can I get them to do what I want? Leadership is, how can I myself facilitate what it is that they need? That one shift will automatically put you ahead of 90% of other people when it comes to leadership. Skill number 5, time management. Show me your schedule, I'll show you your future. Most of us, we have a desire for a future. We have a vision for the future that we'd like to have. And if we look at our schedule predicts our future. And most of us, when we look at our schedule and we say, okay, what future would this schedule predict? It typically does not predict a future that looks like the future that we say we want to have. That is, in a simple concept, the definition of time management is, how are you creating a schedule that becomes predictive of, or that naturally results in, the future that you say you want. And so the simplest way to think about this is, okay, what are the areas of life in which I can be moving myself toward my desired future? And typically, and I talk about this, we talk about this at length inside of Entre, my entrepreneurial education company. We have a big community, tens of thousands of people, and we're always talking about our 3 Ps, our physical, personal, and professional development, right? And that basically, there's no way we can be moving ourselves towards our 4th P, which is purpose, without developing ourselves in one of those 3 categories, physically, personally, or professionally. And yet most people's schedules, if you lay out the 168 hours a week that most people have to work with, and you say, okay, show me the time that you're advancing your cause physically, personally, or professionally. It's like, oh, well, I did a little bit of time at the gym here, or I did, I spent a little bit of time here with my kid or my spouse, and oh, most of the time I did this when I was working, but was I advancing my cause professionally, or was I just trading my time for money for the paycheck that is, not really professional development or professional enhancement? You have all this time, and yet most of us are spending very little of it actually advancing our cause physically, personally, and professionally. So what we do as an exercise is we're constantly scrutinizing our schedule, constantly scrutinizing our calendar, which, by the way, starts with like journaling or documenting or pre-planning your schedule, so you actually have a record of how you spent your time, and then looking at it and saying, okay, am I making meaningful, what we call deposit, meaningful physical deposit every day to move myself forward physically? Am I making a meaningful personal deposit every day to move my relationships forward? Am I making a meaningful professional deposits to increase my value, increase my skills, advance myself professionally? And how much time am I spending? And so there's really only 2 things you can control. You can control how much time am I spending on these things, and what time am I spending on these things? And how much is obvious. Like, am I working out 5 minutes a day, or 50 minutes a day, or 5 hours? And obviously working out 5 hours a day is probably unnecessary because you have to manage energy and resources too. But the other thing is, when you tell yourself what's important to you every day based on when you do the things that you do. Whatever you do first, you are telling yourself is the most important thing in your life. You can look at your life and say, well, I really want to get ahead. I really want to develop these skills. I really want to, let's hypothetically say, I really want to be able to travel abroad. And so I'm going to learn a foreign language. But if the time that you're spending learning that foreign language is, 20 minutes that you have left over at the end of the day with what little energy you have left after you've exhausted yourself doing all these other things for everyone else, you're telling yourself that goal is of low importance to you. You're telling yourself it's a low priority. Whereas if you say, you know what, I need to learn a foreign language so that I can travel abroad, so I'm going to actually start getting up 30 minutes earlier than I was and doing that study first thing, then you're telling yourself that it's important to you, and your life will naturally play out, and your schedule will naturally start to predict the future that you say you want. So again, that's the whole concept of time management in a nutshell. Huge skill for becoming rich over time. Skill number 6, we talked about time management. Now, money management, becoming proficient at handling money and really learning to speak the language of money. Just like sales, just like copywriting, just like public speaking, we have all this baggage that keeps us from wanting to do the things, or from investing the time, energy, and focus in the things that can actually fix the major problems in our life. How many of us have this conflicted psychology around money where it's like easier to not have it, and easier to complain about it, and easier to have negative feelings about it, and easier to connect with other people through our negative feelings about it and through our complaints about it, than it is to just acknowledge, man, money is really, really important. Money is something I really, really want, not because I want to get it and hoard it, but because I want to get it and do the things that it empowers me to be able to do in this world, many of which could be really awesome for yourself and other people. And just own it. Just proudly say, money matters, so I'm going to get better at it, and really start learning to look at your life through the lens of like a CFO, a chief financial officer, managing your own life. Are you living your life from a profit and loss statement, right? Do you have a statement of cash flows? Do you know how much money comes in each month, when the money comes in each month, when the money goes out each month, what it goes out to? Do you have budgets? Do you know how much money you spend in a month on entertainment? Do you know how much money you spend in a month eating out? Do you know how much money you spend in a month on stuff that you need for your work? Do you know how much money you spend on education? Do you know how much money you spend on rent? Most of us know how much money we spend in a month on rent, but do you know how much you spend out of each paycheck on rent? Or do you know how much money you spend each day on rent? Have you really done all the math around the numbers, around the money in your life, and started living with an insistence upon surplus to say every day, every week, every month, every year, I will obsessively create surplus. I will not have a negative or neutral profit and loss statement in my life. And again, it's pretty easy once you actually start putting the numbers down, but be honest. In fact, you know what? If you're truly living from an empowered financial place where every day you operate on the basis of a personal cash flow statement, leave a comment below. Brag. This is your time to brag and to be really proud of yourself. And if you're not, also leave a comment below. This is your time to own it and to commit to doing it different. And skill number 7 is about emotional intelligence. So here's the thing. I just gave you 6 other skills that are really, really important and can help ultimately make you rich in this world. Some of them at least, probably were not things that you've never heard before. Probably they're all, and what they're all things are things that you probably thought, yeah, I should be better at that. I should do more of that. I should be more focused and disciplined about that. And myself included, even as I'm talking through them, I'm sitting here going, yeah, I should do that better. I should do that more, right? So why is it that we either we know the things that we should be doing or we get exposed to things we should be doing, and then moving forward, we don't immediately and effectively become masters in the execution of doing those things that we should be doing? Why is it? Because of one thing, our emotions. Our emotions are the things that keep us from doing what we think we should do and instead doing what we feel like we want to do. The ability to compartmentalize and to masterfully handle our emotions. It's not about not feeling, it's not about not having emotions, but to be able to separate our emotions from our behavior. That is the single greatest skill in this world. So I'm going to share with you 2 very simple things that you can do to start improving your emotional mastery, to increase your emotional intelligence in this world. Without this, watching all these videos and hearing all these tips, it won't matter because you won't execute it effectively. The first thing you can do to improve emotional intelligence is very short or no longer than necessary regular practice of meditations. So I personally like to meditate for just a very brief moment, first thing in the morning. What I found is that the more I meditate, and I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, you have to learn to meditate for 4 hours straight. I mean, that would be awesome. I literally feel like I never have 4 hours in my life when I can just only meditate. Because even if I have it, that's probably a day off when I want to be with my family. But lots of little meditations, and there's a million videos you can watch about how to meditate, short meditations, 5-minute meditations, 2-minute meditations, whatever. But just creating a regular practice of recurring meditations, I have found, again, the goal is to not make yourself less feeling, but to create this space between how you feel and what you do. And I have found meditations, that practice of meditating is what creates that space. It creates that operating room, the room to maneuver between how I feel and what I need to do. And the other thing is, if you find yourself, with like these, let's call them thoughts that you loop on, and that's how a lot of emotions, when we have emotions that complicate our life or that detract from our quality of life, the way we experience those emotions is through looping thoughts, where the emotion produces like a phrase or a sensation in our mind, and we kind of keep going round and round and round on it, is to basically just go look up any sort of therapeutic modality under the category of cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, if you have the money and you don't have a big stigma around it, I very much recommend getting a therapist and actually working through cognitive behavioral therapy with a therapist. But I've literally done, hundreds of hours, probably thousands of hours at this point, of practice going through exercises that I got out of books or that I got out of the internet, or I got off the internet, that are cognitive behavioral therapy exercises. They come from, there's a lot of different sort of sub schools. There's rational emotive behavior therapy. There's dialectical behavior therapy. There's cognitive restructural therapy. There's all this stuff, but it's all under this umbrella of cognitive behavioral therapy. And basically there's these exercises you can do where you learn to intervene on your own thoughts. So you have an emotion, or you're having an emotion is basically a reaction to a situation, something that happens, right? And you're having this emotional reaction. And in order to have emotion, you have to have created meaning around the situation. And so you're kind of looping on what does it mean, and what were they thinking, and why did they do that? And then you have words, you have language that you use to define that. And cognitive behavioral therapy just basically teaches you to substitute new thoughts, new words that can diffuse the emotion. Like I said, that's a little more advanced than just the meditation practice, but I really recommend that everybody should do both. I think they should start teaching this stuff in schools. I think from kindergarten age, we should have kids meditating, and we should have kids doing intervention on their own thought patterns, and doing the exercise of trying to put words to their feelings, to their thoughts, to their sensations, and then analyze those words about how the words themselves make them feel, and starting to swap out the words. Like, anyway, I have like multiple videos about this you can look at, or just Google cognitive behavioral therapy. But it's like, you have to get emotional mastery, or else honestly you could watch 1,000 hours of videos like this and it won't make any difference. Hey, if you liked this video, then you're gonna love this video. Today, I wanna share with you different ways to build wealth online. You can start at zero and easily make $100,000 or much, much more. And I will share with you some high income earning skills that anyone can learn